Hello and welcome into the Calcio Connection podcast. We are connecting with you, Italian football fans from all over the world. I am Alex Dono, and I am as surprised as anyone that Inter actually pulled it off and got that 1-0 at the Giuseppe Meazza today. Joined as always by Jerry Mancini and our special guest down below for those watching on YouTube. Honestly, when we invited Joe Fischetti on from the Forza Napoli pod, and we invited him on before the result of the match, I thought, man, I'm just going to let Joe take a victory lap on the show. But Joe, you saw my superstitions today firsthand because I was playing some mental voodoo in the three-way chat that we had going on. I guess whatever I did worked.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Interisti doing the reverse mush tactic, which seemed to work. For me, I think, every time I agree to come on this podcast, I feel like Napoli lose a big match. So I'm starting to say, I like you guys, but I might have to reconsider whether I come on this.
I invited Joe on to be a permanent co-host. If it's if it's going to allow other teams to get into this Scudetto race, we're going to have Joe on every week. So, and Jerry, hello to you as well. I know we got hockey going on. I know you're a little bit down because Lazio lost today to Lecce, which was obviously a disappointing result. How are you, sir?
I'm pissed off. I forgot to start my lineup for my hockey pool. God damn it. Fuck. I left two guys on the bench. Oh, well, they can fuck themselves. Jeez. Anyways, I don't even care that Lazio lost. I really don't give a shit, honestly. The break made me lose some interest into the league because for such the long layoff, and it's going to take me some time before I actually get more invested into the Serie A again. Like I felt like today was just like a bunch of guys. It was like one team was ready to go and one team still looked like they're in preseason training. Like, I don't know. It was kind of a mixed result of teams. Like, and it's funny because everyone 2 months ago said, or back in November, was that if you had a lot of guys playing, that's going to hurt you. Well, when you really look at it now, it doesn't really. We think that because they play too much, it's too much for them. I think they're very mentally, they're well trained and mentally equipped that they can handle playing that extra football. That it's not new to them. They're not rookies. It's not their first year in the league where like Giroud can do it. He's a professional who's been around. Like these kind of guys know what their body can handle. And I think that the fact that they were staying in shape for 2-3 months while other guys are at home eating panettone and freaking
like you.
Eating, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. I think that it benefited some teams and some teams are maybe hurting from it. So yeah, I only caught the Lazio game and I caught the Napoli game, and I thought that I'll keep it short for the Inter game. I thought that was Inter's best game this season.
Yeah, and it's something I want to get into here. I thought Inter from the get-go, they really played great. The only thing that was missing for most of the match was just the end product, and it was really something I was thinking could end up coming back to haunt them because obviously we know how clinical Napoli's attack can be and how dangerous they are in front of goals. So I kept thinking if Inter can't bury a chance or two, it's only a matter of time before Napoli will be more clinical with their first really good chance of the match. And Onana did end up having a quality save or two in this one. But, in that first half, it was frustrating from an Inter point of view. I'm sure frustrating for Napoli as well to give up chances like this. Lukaku, who didn't play very well, did have some dangerous runs, and he did have some dangerous crosses, including a cross that set up. It would have been the secondary assist on what was almost a sitter for Matteo Darmian that he put over the top, and Lukaku also had a nice cross on a Federico Di Marco chance on the left flank that he couldn't put on target, and nothing was going on target for Inter in the first half, but they were controlling the chances. They created, I think, every single one of the quality chances in the first half, even though Napoli had more possession in the game, which I think we all expected. And then the breakthrough, Joe, came, and it ended up being the only goal of the match, which I did not expect. I thought there'd probably be, least 2 or 3 goals scored in this one. Edin Dzeko scores with his head. I thought Dzeko was excellent in this match at the 56th minute, and I thought the man who delivered the service to him, DiMarco, had a brilliant match. And, I think it was our buddy Nima who said this on Twitter, that DiMarco's left foot is like a cheat code. I mean, he is so pinpoint accurate with those left-footed crosses of his, and he just picked out Dzeko's head perfectly on what certainly looked like a defensive lapse from a Napoli point of view. But that ended up being the only scoring of the match. Joe, how did you see that play out, from the Inter missed chances to the one that Dzeko finally found the back of the net on?
Yeah, so there's no doubt that Inter were the better side. They were deserving of the victory, in my opinion. I was expecting a low scoring result, despite these being the two top scoring teams in the league, only because of that World Cup break and not knowing how players are going to come back. Will they be rusty or not? I perfectly understand Jerry's point about potentially the players returning from the World Cup being more in form than the ones who are not playing. And we saw that in the Milan match. Giroud looked very good, even though he missed a bunch of chances. Theo Hernandez, Rafael Leao. But then you look at Napoli, and Napoli started 4 of the 5 players that went to the World Cup. And really, Kim Min-jae was the only one who played well. I think Oliveira was decent, but Zielinski didn't do a whole lot, and Gisa didn't do a whole lot. I think for Napoli, the first objective of the match was to get through that first quarter of the match, 15, 20 minutes, let's say, because it's a home game for Inter, survive that period. We knew there was going to be a lot of energy. Napoli fans from Campania were not allowed to travel, so there were fewer Napoli fans than you might have expected at the...
Well, why was that?
They cited safety reasons. I think there's been some issues between the ultras in the past. So,
yes, I can remember a
there was
stabbing a few years ago.
Exactly,
yeah.
So, which is fine, but Napoli, we did achieve that despite conceding a couple of those really major chances. We got through that period without conceding, and then we started to take over control of the match, and we started to play our game. But I thought Simone Inzaghi had a fantastic game plan for this match, and I thought Inter executed that really well, specifically in the defensive phase. And as you mentioned, Napoli had a lot more of the ball, which was sort of part of the plan. But Inter, in a way, they defended like some of the lower table teams defend against Napoli, which is what we actually struggle against the most, because Napoli play well in space. And what Inter did, and I did a Q&A for Serpents of Inter, and one of the questions is, what is Napoli's weakness? And I mentioned this, that we struggle against the lower table teams because they take away the space in the midfield. So Inter played with all 10 men behind the ball. You have those 5 midfielders that, even without Brozovic and even with Mkhitaryan maybe not 100% fit, Barella played amazing, and they really limited what Zielinski, Lobotka, and Anguissa could do in the midfield. And that, for anyone who's watched Napoli this season, that's the heart of Napoli right there. And when we can't play in the midfield, what that did is it forced us to use the wings, which is fine. We have good wing players, Cavada on one side. Politano didn't do much on the other side. But when you're playing on the wings, you're naturally going to cross the ball into the area. And that plays to Inter's strengths as well, because Inter have those 3 pillars in the middle of the defense, led by Skriniar. So they just eat up everything you put into the area. So I thought...
And on a quick side note, I've got to say this while Jerry is listening. Acerbi has been shockingly good this year. I was expecting just a fossil, like a shell of his former self, but he's been quite good.
It's funny you say that, because I said that today on the phone to Joe.
Yeah,
I said to him, the Cherby's been the better one than Correa, and
yes.
And it should be the opposite, where Correa is the younger player who should have the speed, the pace, the longevity to go a whole game and be a more well-rounded player, and he's the guy who's breaking down consistently. You don't know when he's going to stay healthy, and you see Acerbi has been really good. And you know what? I think it's the biggest factor is that he is suited to a back 3. Yeah. His style of play, I think the wing backs really help him in support too in a back 3, because he gets that extra support. I don't think he's very comfortable playing in a back 4 and having to be one of the center backs beside another one. Like, I think the spacing, the positioning is just it's too structured for him, where under Inzaghi, and it's a little bit more free roam. He can play a little bit higher, and he can play more loose and come back and kind of have the support of a winger or a midfielder playing there. I think when at Lazio, an advantage that helped him was Lucas Leiva. And if you have a proper number 6 in the 3-5-2, it kind of helps the center back as well, too, right? It gives him that extra coverage in order to like play the position easier. So I think that's something that Inter has as well that kind of helps him with his game. So um if he keeps playing like this, you have to wonder, does Inter, I know this is going off topic, but you wonder, like, do they sign him in the summer? Like, do they pick up the option? Like, if because he's showing to be a good option over De Vrij, right?
Yeah,
So,
well, and I would say I think they're working on that, and they probably should be, since it seems like there's close to 50-50 chance they lose Skriniar, and of course they would also go for a younger, replacement. But you would think you would want all the veterans you can get hanging. You would want as much continuity as possible. If you lose Skriniar on a free, you would want to have somebody like a Cherby with the way that he's been playing. And that's good points on Inter's defense. And on that, I mean, Joe, you were kind of explaining tactically how Napoli had to try to create from the wide areas. What did you make of Osimhen's performance? I mean, obviously, I thought he was defended well, but also didn't get the consistent service that he might have needed in this match. How did you feel about the way that he played? Because obviously, that's one of the Napoli players I fear most.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, Osimhen is only as good as the service that he gets, and there wasn't a whole lot of it. And he's also good when he has space as well, right? His best feature, his best quality is his pace. That's kind of removed from the equation when you're playing a deep, a low block. When your opponent is defending in a low block, you can't really play the ball over the top, which is where Osimhen excels. He does also excel in the air, but again, with Skriniar, Bastoni, Acerbi in the box, that's not going to be great for him. He had one chance, but Oliveira's cross was kind of a soft one, so had Oliveira gotten more power on that cross, Osimhen might have gone for the header. Instead, he tried to control it on his chest, and I think Çalhanoğlu got in between him and the ball, and then
That's
Onana
right.
picked it up. One of the surprises for me, at least in the starting lineup, which is another sort of very interesting tactical part of this game, was that Oliveira started over Mario Rui. Mario Rui is probably our best crosser of the ball. He's having a great season in terms of assists. So he wasn't there to deliver the ball to Osimhen. And it was interesting because I think Spalletti started Oliveira thinking that Inzaghi was going to start Denzel Dumfries
Yeah.
and that Oliveira would be the better matchup to defend Dumfries. And then at the same time, I think Inzaghi started Darmian thinking he might be the better option to defend Kvaratskhelia. So there was a lot of sort of chess moves going on between the two coaches. But yeah, it was. I mean, Osimhen's one player, but really, you look at Napoli starting 11, and outside of Kim Min Jae, there really wasn't anyone who had really standout performances in this match. It was easily our worst performance of the season.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, guys, where obviously, every 3 points is important, no matter who the side is, because there's we have more than half the season in front of us. But at the same time, I certainly feel that this result was a lot more important to Inter than it was to Napoli, who hadn't lost yet this season and had a heck of a cushion atop the table. That cushion goes from 8 points now to 5 in front of Milan, and now Inter are within 8 points, and they are in a Champions League position. Thank you, Jerry. Inter in a Champions League position if the season were to end today. So, I mean, certainly this is, I mean, Joe, you knew it wasn't going to be an unbeaten season, that at some point Napoli would have to suffer the first loss, still in tremendous position here coming out of this World Cup break.
Yeah, and I think that's why most Napoli fans took this loss fairly well. We still have a 5 point lead ahead of our nearest competitor. And for us, especially, and for probably most teams in the league, this is the toughest fixture on the schedule. Going to play at the Meazza against Inter. Yeah, Inter have not had the best start to the season, 5 losses. But Napoli historically have struggled in this fixture. I mean, I looked at this before the match in our preview, and Napoli's in the last 10 league matches, Napoli won only one of them. That was in May of 2019. Our last win against Inter at the Meazza was in April of 2017. So it's not like we were coming in here thinking this was going to be an easy match. I think obviously a victory would have been incredible. A draw would have been a good result, I think, as well.
For
And we
both
would have
teams, I think
settled for that,
a draw
especially
would have been acceptable. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Especially after that first half and all the chances that Inter had. But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world for Napoli. I think the big question is how do they respond to this? You know, how do they respond to their first loss of the season? Sampdoria is next, which in theory should be an easy win, and then Napoli have Juventus right after that. So, you know, January is going to be a really important month for everyone, really.
Yeah, and a couple other notes for me on Inter, and then I want to get Jerry's take on a certain Inter player. I was very intrigued to watch Lukaku. You know, the last time we saw him was in just a horrific performance against Croatia with Belgium, which I thought was kind of an unfair position for him to even be put in because he really wasn't even supposed to play until the knockout stages. And obviously Belgium needed to win that game to get there, so they rushed him back, and he was missing sitters left and right, and he looks rusty still. You could see Lukaku making very dangerous runs, so like the actual threat was there on kind of what he used to do a couple years ago, but the first touch, like all the Premier League fans would say, was really off for Lukaku today, and it looked like he was playing with jeans and Timberland boots on through a lot of this game. But he did still provide some runs that tested Napoli's defense, and actually had a couple of nice crosses. Really could have had an assist or two in this game had there, the players on the other end of it been a little bit more clinical. So hopefully that's kind of a sign of progress for things to come for him, that he can get back to full fitness and match shape. I actually thought Lautaro did some good things when he came on as a substitute late in the match. We talked about, obviously, the midfield. Barella was fantastic. At wingback, DiMarco was fantastic. Darmian did some good things, but I cannot forgive him for missing the shot that he missed. That one is going to, even though Inter ended up winning the match, that one's going to sting for a little bit. But another attacking substitute that came on, because Dzeko, who was very good, he scored the goal and I thought was dangerous throughout the match. Dzeko had some cramps in the second half, so he came off. And in came Joaquin Correa Tucu, who, he had to miss the World Cup. He picks up knocks. So this guy gets out of bed in the morning. He's pulling something. And he didn't seem to pull anything today, Jerry, but Tucu he was not very good. And I know you watched the limited role that he played today, Jerry. What was your thoughts on the grill master?
Terrible. That's it. I literally didn't really pay attention to the whole game. I was very tired because I got up at 4:30, went to work, got home at 9:30, 10 just to watch Lazio lose, which is the story of my life. But and I was up until I went to bed at 1 o'clock yesterday after watching the Oilers lose last night, and then I slept for 3 hours last night. So I'm just full with disappointment. But I just thought that Correa was so bad, and I'm just looking at how much time he played. So he came on in the 75th minute. So he played around 28 minutes. He played because the injury time was
should have been about 20 minutes, I think.
Or was it? 4 minutes? That's right. That's
Lazio.
Yeah. The Lazio game was 7 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the limited time that he played, I think that's enough time to get your body going and trying to be an impact player for 24 minutes, or 20 minutes. Like every time he touched the ball, it's like he either turned it over. I remember one sequence where he was down the corner and he got bullied off the ball on the left side. And I forgot who took it off him, but he just lost it with no strength.
I think it was Elmas, if I'm
was it mistaken. Maybe Elmas? Okay, I don't remember who it was, but he just lost it too easily. I don't care if a player loses possession. It's how you lose possession. If you're not making that effort, that extra attempt, and what's the excuse? That he played for 90 minutes? Like that you can't use that. If you're coming off in the 75th minute, you are that guy who has to come off, who's coming on to provide that energy to hold it, to make
Right.
something happen.
And I thought Lautaro did that. Correa obviously didn't, and I don't even know they probably wouldn't have brought Correa on till the 85th minute if Dzeko hadn't cramped up. I don't think the plan was to take him out that early.
Possibly not. Like I think the only thing he did right was he draw a foul. He earned a yellow card. Like a Napoli player got a yellow card and took him down in the middle of the field of the midfield. But other than that, like he turned the ball over a few times, caused some errors. Just didn't really offer anything in the midfield. He was just a liability, in just my opinion. Maybe I'm sounding like a hater because I really nitpick everything he does, but today was really bad. Like, I just don't think this is a guy who it was a bad signing. It's a bad signing, and that's it. Like, I think this was an Inzaghi signing where he just didn't. He was too reactive on this one and just wanted him because he's a Lazio player.
And it seems like every man. I mean, Conte had his Vidal was his guy. When Spalletti was at Inter, it was Nainggolan, which was just an awful way at that point in his career, was a waste. And yeah, for Inzaghi, it's been Correa.
I can see why he brought him on though, because like Inter were playing even more defensively for the final 10-15 minutes of the match.
Yeah.
And one good thing about Tuku is he can counterattack. Like we saw that goal he scored. I can't remember which team it was against, where he basically carried the ball the length of the pitch and smashed it into the top corner.
Yeah, I remember the goal. I can't remember which team it was against. It's been so long.
Verona.
was it against Verona? Yeah. It's been like 6 years since we watched it.
So I mean, he has that in him, and so I guess in that sense, it kind of made sense to bring him on as just fresh legs for the counterattack, because Inter were really defending at the end there.
By the way, Joe, I completely agree with this comment from Eduardo Onana. That last save would have been a goal with Handanovic. Not only that, Handanovic wouldn't have moved. Like he would have just because, like, honestly, and it was. And I love Handanovic, but they tried to play this guy till he was like 40 as the starting goalkeeper. Like he had his days, but then late in Handanovic's career, he just makes up his mind when a certain chance is created. Like he even before the shot is taken, he's like, not saving that, not diving for it, right? Where
I'll defend Handanovic on that one. That was just a goalkeeper in the right place. Like he didn't have to move to make the save, though. He was just it went right to him.
The reflex was on point, though.
Yeah, but Raspadori didn't do enough to kind of make him have to make a decision to go left, right, to make that extra attempt to maybe make an error. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll give him the fact that he was in the right spot, but like it was a quality chance, but not at its best. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I think he still had to react though because of the power on that shot. And I mean, Onana's a bit of an unorthodox goalkeeper. I mean, he kind of stopped it with his shoulder a little bit. Yeah. But I take Jerry's point. If Raspadori picks a corner there, it's probably a goal. True. But Alex, you mentioned like chances earlier. That was Napoli's first real chance of the match. Like we had a bunch of half chances. Di Lorenzo had a couple of times where he didn't know whether he should shoot or pass, and sort of nothing came of it. But our first real chance in this match came in the 90th minute, which is a problem, obviously. And that kind of calls into question. It's easy, obviously, after the match to look back and say what Spalletti should have done or not done. But it does make you wonder whether he should have either started Raspadori or at least brought him off the bench sooner. Because Raspadori, I mean, I think there was a comment from Eduardo on the friendlies. He was our best player in those friendly matches. He scored 7 goals in 4 friendlies. So there was an argument there to, whether Spalletti should start in the 4-2-3-1 with Raspadori as the number 10 as opposed to the traditional 4-3-3. But at the same time, I mean, how can you argue with what has worked, to go unbeaten, 14 wins and 2 draws through 16 matches? You also don't blame Spalletti. It just looked like maybe in Napoli's case, those couple of guys that came back from the World Cup weren't actually in as good shape as Raspadori. Like the guys that came off the bench, Raspadori, Elmas, and Ndombele, they all provided a good amount of energy, but maybe it was too late, or we still just couldn't find a way through the middle. I mean, Spalletti said after the match that Napoli were a little bit timid. So, we couldn't play through Inter. We just kept on going wide. The other thing that is interesting is, I mean, there was a lot of talk about Sozza being the official for this match, being born in Milan.
Well, maybe he's a Milanista.
Yeah. Someone was going to blame him, whether it was Interisti saying he's a Milanista or Napoli fans saying he's Interista.
Or, I'm going to jump on that. Or, because I've seen Inzaghi. You got Inzaghi today. How about the credit of maybe Napoli just got Inzaghi'd? Because
Inzaghi was great today.
That's what it comes down to. It's not that Spalletti got it wrong. You go with what works with you. It's like telling Saudi to go 4-2 something. I don't know, changing from the 4-3-3, and all of a sudden
4-2-8.
Yeah, like he just decides to change it. It's not gonna happen. Like Inzaghi on his good day is unbeatable. That's all I can say. Like when he has the game plan and it's working and he's in his flow, like his substitutions worked. Aside from Correa, but they didn't really hurt him. Like everything worked.
He had no other
Inzaghi.
choice. I mean, he had to put Correa on. There was nothing else he could do.
Yeah, fine, that's fine. But like I'm saying, when Inzaghi's at his best and like he has his players doing what they have to do, and it's a combination. Like he had the players playing at a top level today that I have not seen Inter play this year.
And Inter always seem to play at that top level when they play against Napoli for whatever reason.
At home, yes, yeah.
The reason I mentioned Sozza though is because not that I think, he had any impact on sort of the final outcome of this match, but he did allow them to play. I thought there were a lot of fouls that may or may not have been fouls, and he allowed them to play, which I'm generally fine with. I think that's actually a good thing to let the game flow rather than constant stoppages. But I think when an official calls a game that way, it generally favors the team that is more physical. And I think Inter were clearly the more physical side in this match.
Right.
So I'm not in any way blaming the officiating. What I'm saying is that Inter's physicality, I think, also was a big reason for this outcome. Like we saw how Skriniar was playing very physical on Cavada early in the match, and just Inter in general have a big, strong side. We saw Lukaku holding up the ball, and I think that played in Inter's favor as well.
So let me ask you both big picture now. Again, I know I just said 3-4 minutes ago that there's really no reason for Napoli supporters to panic, but obviously there's a lot of season left. Go ahead, Jerry.
I'll also add, I think the biggest takeaway for Inter is the defensive part of their game today.
Oh, tremendous.
I think that's always been a strength to their game and has been a big weakness this season. It's just far too often you see this team make blunders in the back, and it's Inzaghi always thinking attack, and that might be the Lazio mind in him, always having Luis Alberto and Sergei Milinkovic-Savic and Immobile in order for him to do that. And I think today was one of the very rare games where I've seen him have more of a defensive-minded approach. And Lazio's always been a good counterattack team under Inzaghi. And look how they scored off a counterattack opportunity. You know what I mean? It went the other way. DiMarco went down the wing, put the cross in, and it worked. Like, that's always been Inzaghi style football. So, I wouldn't put too much into this game today for anybody. I think today is a very big toss-up. I think a lot of people, I had to get offline because I was I don't want to get too overreactive, but like, I think that you have to look as call me next Sunday after 2-3 games, and then you'll get an idea of how teams are actually doing again when teams are all up to par and they got the passing under control, the running, the timing, and all that, right? I thought that Lazio and Napoli kind of looked similar in their own ways. Like the timing of their passes were off. They look a little sluggish. They didn't have that rhythm. They weren't winning battles in the midfield. As the game progressed, they just kind of looked slower and slower. But that's my biggest takeaway for Inter. As for Napoli, I think the biggest question now is how does Napoli respond after their first loss?
Yes.
Yeah, of
I
course.
think
Amen.
that's the biggest thing. And if they respond well, then this is a team that's seriously considered a contender for the Scudetto. But I think more importantly is not the Scudetto, as a top 4 push. That's what I look at it as. They lose a second game, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, hold on. Let's take a step back here. What's going on? Because they always say the hardest game after a big winning streak is the
By the way, I love how
really
Ivano
care.
I love how Ivano can talk shit on Lazio when aren't Roma on the same number of points as Lazio now? But he's still talking his shit. You guys are in the same spot.
But yeah, like they always say like the hardest game is always the game after you lose, right? So
yeah,
we'll
I
see.
mean, I don't know if I would go so far as to say that Napoli, to question whether Napoli are a Scudetto contender when they're still 5 points clear.
Yeah,
at
they
the top
better
of the
be.
table and targeting top 4. I think, I get your point. If they lose a couple matches, that
changes, right? Like you don't know, quickly. Right?
But I mean, if you were to everybody plays everyone, right? So that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think we're a little bit unfortunate to get Inter as the first team we play out of the break. You look across the league, everyone else basically had relatively easy matches. I don't use that as an excuse, but if you were to ask me, Napoli lost 1-0 to Inter at the Meazza after a 2-month break.
Yeah.
That's understandable, right?
Sure,
but I completely agree. The real question is, how do they respond? Because that's been Napoli's Achilles heel in past seasons, that mental lapse at right around this time of the year, as
Yeah, and that's a Spalletti problem that predates his
Yeah.
time at Napoli too.
Yeah, it's both of them actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of a bad combination.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we have Sampdoria who won, but that's a team we should beat. Hopefully we do, and that'll get our confidence back up ahead of Juventus. It's interesting, you look at all the matches, like outside of Milan, who looked really sharp against Salernitana, mind you, it's Salernitana. Everyone else did look kind of like they were affected by that World Cup break. Like Juve just barely got the win last minute against Cremonese. Atalanta got a last minute draw.
Yeah.
Lost. Roma won, but I think it was 1-0? So, no one was terribly convincing this round. Inter and Milan were probably the two best.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Jerry, before we wrap up this episode, is there anything else you would like to say about Lazio, especially since we have a great Roma supporter, our friend Ivano, in there? He's talking a little crap in the chat.
Who won the derby?
That's mic drop moment right there.
That's all I gotta say is who won the Rome derby.
I love it.
I'll leave it right there. Okay. Thank you for the giveaway in that game, by the way. I'm not gonna. It just looked like a team that just as the game progressed, they started to die more and more. There was just no creativity. I thought this was Sergei Milinkovic-Savic's worst game, maybe this season. I think the last couple of games he's been poor. You've been playing you played for the conference last year.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Do I have to win the tree vase, the vase, whatever you guys want? I don't even care about this conference league.
The bonsai tree.
I hate it. I just think that Lazio I think sometimes you play to your opponent's level and you become too incomplacent. Like if you play a bottom team, sometimes it sucks you out. It was just a bad game. Like you would think that scoring the first goal in the first 20 minutes would give you the momentum to keep going. I think the one thing that they were missing today was Luis Alberto. Someone who can really, because the pace of the game was quite slow, that I felt that the game could have been advantage to Alberto because the team like Lecce doesn't cut down your space and it gives you time to make that pass. I think Alberto would have helped in their attack. There wasn't any creativity.
Why didn't he play? I didn't.
He has a knee injury. He has an injury. He's hurt. So you would think that you would be healthy. He got hurt from a friendly game, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
so
terrible.
So and I think they made a mistake taking off Savage at the 60th minute instead of Basic. Basic, I've defended this guy. He is bad. He's a very bad player. I'm sorry. I thought this guy was gonna come over and like the hype and everything, and I think he started off really well.
Yeah, I thought so too.
You know what, man? The midfield, he just looks slow, doesn't win, doesn't really have any skill with the feet. His shot selection, his wheels balls over the net. He had one good chance, he just wheeled it, and he had Immobile wide open in the middle of the.
Maybe it's just a Lazio thing because Vidal
I don't know, man.
is tied for second top scorer in La Liga.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's the style of football in Spain that allows him to play that kind of game. I think it's suited to him because they don't even know how to play defense in Spain. So
He didn't look like he knew how to play offense in Italy.
I bet my life if he came back to Italy and think he can do that, I guarantee he would get shredded apart again. My bet is he would never come back to Italy to play.
Yeah, I doubt it. Yeah,
it's just too systematic for him, and I think that he needs to play more free roam. If you watch in Spain, you just need a big body because everyone just sits back, and if you're that tall guy, you can just win easily. Immobile looked good today. I'll go from there. I'll see how they do Sunday. I expect a better performance. I think the effort was not great. It wasn't just lackluster. Like Pedro wasn't great. I thought Zaccani's got to learn how to stop rolling all over the field. Drives me nuts how this. I don't like football players who get a little love tap and they're on the floor and they're dying. Like that's the reason why I never liked football for so long. Is I cannot respect players when they're in agony and then they get back up and 2 seconds later they're running again. It's like you were just dying on the floor and all of a sudden you have healing spraying. All of a sudden you're back to normal. I don't like players who try to sell fouls and like try to get the attention of the referees. I think it's gotta be like back and forth where the referees need to acknowledge that there is a foul, but the players also have to acknowledge not to sell it. And I think there would be some like compromise there. I know it's a lot to ask for. And the last thing I'll say is Lazio was really good today. I thought Lazio was probably the one player who stood out, and he really is really good at generating attack from the back end up and moving it. He really has transitioned under a Sarri type player where he can really move the ball quickly, get it out of spaces. And his attention to detail has gotten better. His defending, I think, has improved. So I thought that he had a quite a decent game. So, well, yeah, hats off to Lecce because they look like they came out guns blazing and attacked really well. As the game in the first half, it was a modest slow game. In the second half, like they really came out and really had the momentum. So it is what it is. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's well said, of course. And before we let everybody run, Joe Fischetti from the Forza Napoli pod, you're doing incredible things, man. It's been cool watching how you've grown your platform. Let people know where they can find everything.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure chatting with you guys about Calcio. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Joe_Fischetti5. You can find the podcast on all the usual social media platforms at Forza Napoli Pod. And now, I don't know if I've talked about it since the last time I've been on, but I started a website as well.
It's awesome.
If you're looking for written content, which is ForzaNapoliPress.com. So if you head over there, you can find match previews, reviews, news, that sort of stuff.
Well, that's good for people like Jerry who actually read, unlike me. I know Jerry's always reading good books. Jerry, is there anything you'd like to plug or promote before we call it a night? I said a nice thing. You read. I only read blogs and message boards. You actually read books.
I'm done writing, man. I think that stop writing, like me not writing for the last couple of months has been great. been
I started a
reading.
website, so naturally Jerry stopped writing.
Of course, I mean, yeah, something had to give and take, right?
I can't believe I wrote over 1,000 pieces for like in total. It's
Wow.
ridiculous. I've never even thought I would ever do that, but like I still have 2 pieces done, and I haven't released them yet. Like I have
Wow.
one on Mihalovic. I did.
Oh, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, God bless him. I wrote it 2 years ago, actually, this piece, and I have another one on Lucas Leiva, and like I don't know, I'm just lazy to send them out now. I think when TFC starts, I will do the media. I think that doing that kind of gets me out of the house, and it's nice to like do it. But like I don't know, God bless Joe. I don't know how he does it. It's for me, it's you know what? I'll give a plug. Sopranos. That show's amazing, man.
Yeah, I mean,
That
you act
show
like this is a new sensation. This has been an amazing show for like 20 years.
I never had HBO, man. Oh, what the heck? When that show was out, I didn't have HBO, and I didn't know like this live streaming crap. And like now that I have Crave, so like
There's another new good show, Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one either yet. Don't worry. I just
eventually
finished.
he'll get to it.
I don't know. Sopranos is so good, man.
Sopranos is I've watched it all the way through at least 3 times, if not 4.
Who's your favorite character?
Ooh, I love Paulie Walnuts.
Paulie's awesome. Like that guy's got
Paulie
6
is
characters.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
He's a nutcase. Holy fuck, man. That guy.
Yeah, I think he's probably my favorite, like consistently, because like I mean, Tony's the main character. He can be frustrating sometimes. Christopher can be a whiny bitch sometimes, but like Paulie is always on point.
Man, I think Tony's the best. I know it's the cop out and it's like the cheesy answer. I just think, and our friend in our chat group said it perfect. I think it's his personality, how he's able to have like these like 6 different friendships with like 6 different people. He can be a different person all the time. And
hold on, let's say I know Joe's got to run. Let's say goodbye to Joe real quick because he's got children, he's got a life. Joe, thank you so much for stopping by, my friend. We'll see you again.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Hey, guys. Joe, last question: Panettone or Pandoro?
Panettone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Amen to that.
Oh, cheers, man.
Amen to
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Yeah, guys. See ya, buddy.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, man. Like, I know this is off topic now. Like, I understand why Joe left. Joe, once it's no more football, he's gone. But like, yeah, with Sopranos, man, I wish I knew about the show earlier, man. Like, I would do a podcast just dedicated to Sopranos.
There's a really good one, and it's actually 2 of the actors, Michael Imperioli, who played Christopher, and the gentleman who played Bobby Bacala. They do a show. I don't know if they still do it, but they did a show called Talking Sopranos, where they would like break down, they were on the show, so they would talk like inside filming the episodes, and they would have guests on, like other cast members, and it was pretty good. They started it during the COVID lockdowns, and I used to watch it then.
I always thought, would they ever bring it back? But then it's kind of hard to bring it back when the main guy, God bless him, is no longer is alive.
Yeah,
I like the episode. I just watched it recently. I know this is probably vague to maybe, but I like his uncle, Tony's uncle,
Junior.
Yeah, Junior, when he's watching TV and he sees the episode of Jerry Seinfeld, the creator.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, when he's watching it and he thinks that's him on TV.
Yes,
and he
that
sees
was funny.
I thought that was
what am I doing on the TV?
I thought that was great, man. But it's amazing how they set up their own people. How like they set their own people up, and they don't give a shit. Like if they see someone's like an outlier, like done. But like, yeah, it's a great show, man. Honestly, and I know there's someone who Omar normally asks me on Twitter if he watches the podcast. I recommend Sopranos. Yellowstone's amazing too.
I need to get into that. I only watched like the first 2 episodes, and everybody tells me it starts slow and it kind of picks up after that. I've only seen the first 2, so I've got to resume Yellowstone.
I heard Succession's good too.
That I've watched that, incredible.
Yeah, my wife
Incredible.
wants to watch that. I've heard that's really good.
Yeah, they're 3 seasons in. I don't know how much longer we have to wait for the 4th season, maybe another 6 months or so, which I'm jonesing for it because it's a great show.
Oh, if you really want a good hockey show that's really funny, Kenny Letter is really
Letterkenny?
good. Letterkenny, that's it. Sorry.
I've heard of it. I haven't
That's
watched
really
it.
good.
Yeah.
And Shorzy. Watch
Shorzy.
Shorzy. It's amazing. It's all hockey chirps. It's amazing.
Nice. All right.
It's
Well,
actually it's filmed out of a place called Sudbury where my mother-in-law is from. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, we will close it out on that note. Always a pleasure, Jerry, and thank you so much to everyone who joined us in the live chat. Thanks again to Joe Fischetti from Forza Napoli Pod, and we will talk to you again next time on another episode of the Calcio Connection podcast. Ciao.
Roma